Okay, well, I am ready to get started. I really appreciate everybody taking some time out of their day. I know we all have a lot going on. I'm finding that June is a very big travel month, so a lot of folks have are out of the office this week as well. You know, as we get into 4th of July holiday and things like that. So I know there's a lot of options for you when it comes to educating yourself and looking at different products and programs that are out there. And I appreciate you guys taking some time to kind of join us today for the monthly Pearl webinar. This one today is going to be a lot of fun. It's really talking about the biggest cybersecurity risk in your organization, your employees. So I'm joined today by Samantha Yip. She is with Kaseya ID Agent. I really appreciate her taking some time to join in and help us understand the landscape and talk a lot about what we can do to better protect ourselves against all those threats that are out there. So I'm going to go ahead and move forward here. For those of you that aren't familiar with Pearl Solutions Group, we are a business of IT professionals that service other mid-sized, small to mid-sized businesses with about 30 to 300 users. We really approach the IT landscape with our clients, not in a one-size-fits-all type of attitude, but really coming in and looking at the different pieces that make your business work and try to determine where the technology that's out there today is going to fit in. And then when it comes to cybersecurity, we try to take a pragmatic approach. You know, not everybody is going to be SOC 2 compliant or HIPAA compliant or PCI compliant, but there's a lot of basic foundational pieces to your business that we feel are important to include regardless of who you are. Pearl has 4 main areas of focus: managed services, which is really the core of what we do. A lot of organizations, you know, technology is essentially permeated into everything that we do as business owners nowadays, right? Everything from the email down to the desktops to how we interact with our line of business systems. Technology is everywhere. Well, not every organization has the resources to have a fully funded IT solutions department that's part of their organization. So that's where Pearl comes in. Managed services essentially fills that gap. When we get into a spot where we need to take you down that technology roadmap, where you've got a new server, a new migration that's happening, or wireless, firewalls, networking, all those things, that's where our professional services group comes into play. They come in and they help you design the path forward and give you a technology roadmap and a solution that's gonna really work for you. Mobile Workforce is the group that deals with fire safety, EMS, utility. We're committed to providing that mobile data and ruggedized delivery of hardware into the vehicles. And then we also do things like license plate readers and body worn cameras, light bars, things like that. So that's a whole division that's really focused in on providing services to those first responders that are out there. And then the area that we're really talking about today and where the webinar series is really focused in on so far this year is cybersecurity. You know, Pearl has had a huge focus in the last year and a half, 2 years on cybersecurity. We recognize that as the IT solution provider, that it's really our responsibility to clients to come in and have a great set of tool sets and technology to help you defend against the threat landscape, protect your data, making sure that on the front side you've got things that are actually protecting you as best it can, but then on the back side we're actually also making sure that the data is recoverable. And those are some of the basic things, you know, managing your antivirus, making sure your firewall is up to date and supportable. And then the last couple of months, we've really been talking through in some of these webinars around the managed detect and response capabilities of certain certain products where it's actually looking at the behaviors within your organization to make sure that things that are going through privileged access are not doing damage to the rest of your infrastructure. We've talked about having awareness around the dark web and what that means from your domain perspective, to making sure that when your users' credentials are compromised out there on the dark web, that you can take some action on your side to prevent that from getting into your organization. And then a big piece of what I've been preaching a lot lately too is multi-factor authentication, the ability to have two-factor that's protecting your users to make sure that if they do happen to have a compromise of password, that you've got a second line of defense there so that someone across the world can't get into those accounts. But that's really from a technology perspective, right? We kind of geek out on those things where we like, from a provider perspective, to say, oh, we can put this tool in place, or we can make sure this is patched, or we can do these technology things. But the reality of what's going on is that your biggest point of entry for a threat actor is going to be your end users, right? The folks that are going through their jobs to simply do what they know to do, whether it's in accounting or it's in marketing or it's in sales, it's in management. Their job is to get through the work that they've got as part of their day, but they need to also understand what the responsibility is that they have to the organization to make sure that they're doing everything they can to keep out those threat actors as well. So to kind of talk a little bit about that and to show us a little bit about some of the options that are out there to help get your users where they need to be, we've got Samantha Yip joining us. So I'm actually going to turn the presentation over to her at this point, and she's got some amazing information to present to everybody. And again, as always, we like to have conversations. So if we're at a certain spot and you want to jump in and ask questions, please feel free to do so. We'd be glad to answer those during the presentation, or we can actually have a discussion at the end as well. So Samantha, you want to jump in there and grab the control?
Yes.
All right.
In a second, I'm just requesting that.
There you go.
Perfect.
I promise not to touch my mouse while you're doing that.
No problem. Thank you so much. So yes, I'm going to actually kind of go ahead and speak to everyone about really the threat landscape. So, as you know, with the pandemic, a lot of things changed. We started working remotely, and we saw a lot of the increased attacks through phishing in 2020. And here you see that Microsoft actually did announce that they're seeing an increased number of phishing attacks that they're being impersonated for. Microsoft was actually the #1 brand that was impersonated, the #1 brand impersonated for most of the phishing attacks. So a lot of the things that you saw might be fax invoices or emails to reset password, things like that, to harvest credentials.
I love that word harvest right there. Not to already interrupt you, but like it reminds me of when we talked about the dark web a couple months ago, where these guys that are out there harvesting your credentials aren't necessarily even the people that are going around and taking advantage of the fact that they got those credentials, right? They're just getting them to be able to sell them off to somebody else.
Absolutely, that's their job, right? I mean, we went over, if you were with us for our last webinar, they harvest the information, they sell that, and that's how they make money, right? This is really their product that they're selling. And with that, the pandemic and the fact that we were all in a decentralized workspace, that actually increased. They knew that a lot of us were working remotely and probably had our guard down, and trusted the emails that were coming through. So it was a really easy way for them to get that data. And you can see here, the U.S. Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, they also warned of an uptake in fraudulent activity since we've all been working remotely. And only 49% of the organizations out there actually believe that they are doing the right things to keep themselves secure. With the pandemic forcing millions of businesses into working from home environments in a decentralized workspace, IT security programs are really less effective. Employees are primarily using email as the main form of communication, and unfortunately, phishing also happens to be the simplest yet most effective form of cyber attack, with 90% of incidents that end in a data breach that started with a phishing email. And finally, an increase in technology also means an increase in security threats. with cyber attacks becoming more and more sophisticated. The data that you see here came from Verizon.
I was gonna add in, I just read an article this morning where 70% of people don't feel their computer poses a threat to their business, right? And that's that level of awareness that you gotta really combat. You gotta get people into a mindset of the fact that their device is a security threat. And, you know, it's just like anything else. It's a tool, and it's how you use that tool.
Absolutely. And really, you can spend millions of dollars a year on security software, but your employees are the ones who implement that software. So software, firewalls, and backups, they're absolutely necessary, but it's your employees who are responsible for upholding those security protocols. Well, and really, are your employees prepared? You know, has there been any training for those employees? Employees are human, and they're bound to make a mistake. Security training can help them avoid things like human error, weak passwords, failing to use a VPN, improper data storage, sharing devices, you know, falling for phishing emails, connecting to insecure networks, and downloading malicious attachments. The threat actors out there are pretty much banking on the idea that because we're working at home and we feel safe when we're in this safe environment, and we might get distracted with things that are happening within our home during our work hours, that we're going to make those mistakes, that we're going to not read an email properly and start maybe downloading something that we shouldn't have. We're clicking onto a link that leads us to a malicious website where they can then harvest our credentials. They're really counting on that fact, and that's why we've seen this increased activity during the time that we're working remotely, because it is working. They are getting this information. They can get our credentials, and they are selling it. So there is the trend, even for 2021, hasn't gone away.
Yep, totally agree.
Here you'll see a sample of an actual phishing email that's gone out. So we'll dissect this a little bit because I don't want to get too deep into it, but you'll see that this was a notice for Miller Supply employees. And this is what we should look for when we take, you know, a couple of seconds to look. I would say about 20 seconds to go look at an email before we start to click on anything or download any documents or attachments with it. You'll see that, you know, the person that's sending it out, they have, instead of it being from Miller Supply, it looks like Miller Supply because they actually put two N's together so that it almost looks like an M, and they're banking on the fact that we are not going to notice that we're just going to scan this relatively quickly, and that we'll see that, oh, it looks like it's coming from my organization. So you can see that it's not coming from their organization. And it's also very generic, right? It's saying, you know, attention to everyone, where most emails from companies might not address users that way. And you'll also see there is a bad link there for a specific seminar. And if you hover over that, you'll see that it actually doesn't take you anywhere near where an organization landing page should be for your company. And also another attachment. There is some poor grammar in this as well. Like, I've seen a lot of really sophisticated phishing emails out there that have gone out that don't even have poor grammar anymore, that actually looks like it could have been written, obviously, from someone in North America. And there's always a sense of urgency when it comes to these type of phishing emails, because they don't want you to think about this email for too long or what it's asking you to do. So that's why they urgently and immediately want you to action whatever the item is that is asking you to do, either to send a transfer or to go into that landing page and, you know, put in your credentials. And here you'll see that this is an actual sample of a phishing kit, a step-by-step phishing kit that you can purchase from the dark web. It gives you step-by-step guides on how to build your own. You can even buy the templates off of someone from the dark web, and you can launch your phishing projects. On top of that, they also sell email lists that you can use for launching those phishing attacks. Really, the question is, what would you do in a data breach from a phishing incident, and how much would that cost your company? Besides the loss of business critical data, you can experience downtime, halt in business production, decrease in revenue transactions. There could be some compliance violations and a possible tarnished reputation from your customer base. Those consequences really add up, and they add up quickly. Security awareness is a preventative measure that proves to be very effective in mitigating costs and consequences. Take the time to invest in training now so that your business can avoid these type of disasters in the future. Here, it's very important that your training is interesting. The more interesting it is for your employees, the more they will actually retain the information and actually apply it. Everyone in your business, including yourself, should participate in training. So think about what you would want to sit through. Nobody wants to sit through something that is boring and uninformative. There is a positive correlation to the amount of training received and the effectiveness of training at minimizing cyber threats. The more time spent in training, the more your employees will see themselves as part of that security framework for your business. However, this doesn't mean that you should bombard them with videos for hours. Regular training spread over a course of time is the most effective method. Security protocols should become second nature. Employees who participate in training and find it useful may even adapt security practices for their own personal lives. And I can speak for my organization here. We do some security training ourselves, and they actually do run quite a bit of phishing simulation on us. So we have learned as a team that most of these emails that kind of come through, we don't immediately click on something. I can tell you this morning that my Bamboo HR, something that we use here at our organization, they sent out an attachment for something that I need to sign. And I'll be honest with you, I almost failed that phishing simulation this morning because I was just starting my day at around 8 a.m. I hadn't even had my coffee yet. And I was like, oh, I got to sign something on my Bamboo HR. And I almost clicked on that document, but I stopped myself because, I'm in the security world. I logged into my account and noticed that my actual HR account wasn't asking me to sign any activity. So I was this close this morning to actually failing that.
Man, you don't want to fail that at a technology company, because the other people in your organization will absolutely give you a hard time. Because I know that we had, we subscribe to the ID Agent Bullphish product here, and not any of my technical people, but we did catch one of the sales guys. He clicked through on the link, and he's been around the industry. He's been around technology for decades, and it was still one of those things that it's just like you said, right? If it's something that's on the forefront of your mind, it's like something that you're aware of, and it's just a security posture. It's just like anything else in life, right? Like if you're getting a little bit of a trickle in that just kind of every once in a while just reminds you, oh, I went through this training, and people will think it's a hassle. They really do. It's like, oh, I can't believe I have to do this. But how much more time are they spending, clicking through cat videos or whatever it is on the internet? And like, just if you can give it to them in little tiny bite-sized chunks and try to stay top of mind in terms of security awareness, it makes a huge difference. And hopefully it's built out into their personal life, because how many people don't have your personal email right next to your business email on your phones anymore, right? Like if I'm checking my business email, my Google Mail is in a different window, but it's the same device that's checking it. So yeah, I mean, if I'm taking the right mindset towards security on one, it's probably going to flow over into the other and help me in my overall security posture, which helps your company out as well.
Absolutely. I mean, you really want to build a security culture for your users that they can make a difference in helping prevent any sort of data breach, right? I mean, they come across email as one of the easiest vectors for those threat actors to get through the door. So building this training and making sure that they know that they are part of the security culture and can prevent something like this from happening. It's definitely a way of getting them involved into this, and training is definitely a large component of that. And you'll see here like how the training works. The security awareness training, we really break it down into 3 components. We have an interactive security training, we have simulated phishing campaigns, and of course we have the analytics and the reports to go along with that. All 3 of these features are included to provide the very best experience possible for all your users. You'll see here that within our platform, there's over 60 videos and lessons developed to train your employees. Topics include lessons like password management, email phishing, proper internet connection protocols. The list pretty much goes on. I mean, almost any area of weakness that you can think of, there is a training for it. And as stated before, we understand the importance of training that is interactive and engaging. So we utilize videos and quizzes rather than mundane pen and paper methods to help your employees pay attention and retain information and also enjoy the process. And finally, we have regular training over a long period of time is the best way to help your employees succeed. So training can be deployed on demand as often as needed, or you can set a schedule to that. You can set the schedule to a weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, even quarterly basis. We can help suggest a time frame that works for your company once we identify some of your vulnerabilities. And the training I'll add is very interactive. You're looking at a quick video, usually around 2 to 5 minutes, and then after watching that video, they are prompted to take a quiz, and the quiz is usually around 6 questions, multiple choice. So it's not going to take a lot of time out of a workday for your users to just get a little bit of the training, anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes of actually completing the training itself. Here is an example of one of the phishing campaigns, and again, I selected a Microsoft one because Microsoft was pretty much is still the #1 brand that's impersonated out there. So we like to launch a series of phishing simulation campaigns. Like this comes in a form of email that looks really, convincingly real. We start with a phishing email because it's the most effective method for cyber criminals to steal credentials. These campaigns are delivered in increments to keep your employees from receiving the emails all at once, which can result in a lack of effectiveness if your employees inform one another about those emails. And here you'll see kind of a dashboard of those analytics and reports based on the training campaigns and even those phishing simulations that you see. You can see the progress of your workforce from pretty much a bird's eye view. With the reports, you can pinpoint any employee that needs maybe some additional training, and you can also see the progress of your whole business and identify any areas of vulnerability, like maybe understanding a trend or a specific topic that multiple employees have had trouble with.
It's always good to identify those folks that are most prone to falling for those simulations.
Definitely. I mean, security awareness training can definitely help your business. We can use this training to avoid security threats, create an improved security culture among all your users, and potentially earn a return on your investment or avoid those consequences, and also mitigate those costs and consequences with any sort of breach through your front line of defense with your employees. I'm going to pass this back to Floyd here.
Thanks. So the ID Agent Bullphish product is one of those things where you got to take advantage of it. You've got to get it out there for your users. But we wanted to give you a chance to take a deeper dive into it. So I always offer something as a thank you for joining into this webinar today. So while it's not one of those products that we can just go and do a demo test where we set up the whole program for you, but as a thank you to that, what we are willing to offer to those folks who are part of the meeting is an actual trial month free. So if you reach back out and say, hey, I want to take a deeper dive into what this product looks like, and do get signed up for the program and commit to it, we'll give you a month free as part of that too. So at this point, I mean, it was great to hear all that information and have a little bit of thought leadership there in terms of phishing simulation and training. I want to open it up. Is there any questions from a couple people that joined us today? Steve and Barb, anything in particular you want to talk to Samantha about, or myself? We can open up the floor and kind of go through that.
Can you explain how you send out the emails? I mean, do you schedule them randomly? Because we tried one of these phishing emails, and unfortunately it blasted to everybody in the organization all at 9 a.m. So it wasn't a very good test, because one person figured it out and said, oh my gosh, don't open this. So how does your system work for testing the individuals?
Samantha, you want to
Sure,
jump in?
yeah, I'll take that. Yes, absolutely. So, Stephen, you're right. I mean, blasting it all at once, it's not something that I would actually suggest. It's really having it over a course of a period of time. So, in our system, you can send it all at once. You can send it over the course of 3 days, over the course of 5 days, 7 days. The list goes on. You can actually we can have it set up that it would go it would spread out over the course of 30 days, and we can set up when that time when the email actually sends out, and we'll have a group of employees that will get that email, and then another group that might not get that email for another 7 days or so. So we can actually kind of cater to that and spread that out instead of sending it all at once. Because I agree with you, Stephen. It doesn't make any sense to send that all at once, because someone's going to figure it out and then warn the entire group.
Are there multiple templates, or does the system just pick one on Mondays, or randomly select?
Right. So we can set we can do a phishing campaign kind of over one time on a bi-weekly basis or on a weekly basis. Right now, it's only one email per campaign. So if we were to run a phishing simulation for your users today, it would just be one template that's being sent out over the course of, let's say, 30 days that you want this phishing email to be sent out for the time being. Now, that being said, there are always product enhancements for the tool that we currently use. And that is one of the features that we're looking at adding to put in, a couple of different options for those phishing simulation emails to go out, so that different ones go out all within the same kind of month time frame. So that's coming down the line, but right now it's just the one phishing email that goes out during the campaign.
And then how many different, I know you said there's a huge catalog of actual templates that we can set up to go out. Can we create, and I'm asking just as I'm kind of thinking through this a little bit, from that campaign perspective, can you create per client multiple campaigns, and then put different user groups within those different campaigns to actually increase that randomness of what's getting sent out to the crew?
Sure, yeah, absolutely. You can divide the group. So let's say you have maybe some admin people in your organization that you want to do some testing for, and you want to test maybe the sales guys, slightly differently. So you can definitely break down your user groups and target those in a more specific manner. And we do have, I don't have the exact number, but for sure it's over 60 different phishing kits that you can select. And there's also a possibility of customizing a phishing kit, and there's also a possibility of customizing training courses as well if you really want. But we already have the kind of the content that's worked, and you can always select phishing kits that have the highest click rate, open rate, and submit rate.
Nothing like entrapping your end users. It does feel like cheating a little bit, I'll be honest, because we do have to whitelist the Kaseya email delivery agent there, so that we do want to ensure that the emails do get through what you have set up today. So it is a little bit like cheating to some extent. But from our perspective, we do want to make sure that the users are getting those emails and that they have an opportunity to recognize what's coming across so that they can respond appropriately.
I think it's safe to. I want to say that it's not really. We don't want them to fail, right? I mean, it does highlight, what areas the users need to work on to make sure that they just don't fall for these type of phishing emails. I mean, like I said, I've been in the IT industry for 15 plus years, in the security industry, for 4 years, and I almost failed this morning for a phishing email that came through that looked kind of like it was coming from HR. It looked really good. And it's really just to kind of build that confidence that, you know, we will catch this. You'll learn from these kind of mistakes if you do fall for a phishing email.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's important. It's very important. I mean, I've seen users that, you know, everybody gets very, very busy in our daily lives right now, and you've got, you know, so many different tasks that are part of what you're doing to accomplish, you know, what you actually are supposed to be getting done, that you're not always taking the time to pay attention to all the emails and things that are coming through. And I could certainly tell some horror stories of clients where it wasn't a malicious attachment or a link that even got them, but it was literally just a conversation that happened between them and a threat actor, but they didn't realize it was a threat actor, and they ended up sending money someplace they shouldn't have through ACH. So I was like, they were perfectly aware of what they were doing, but they just didn't pause to realize that who they were communicating with was not who they thought it was. So it's amazing. It's amazing that that happens, but it's very real. Steve, does that answer your question?
Well, it did. And follow-up question, I guess, is it okay? So if a user send out a phishing type email, I assume there's a couple of different ones. One with an attachment that they shouldn't open, and then you showed on the screen another one where enter your credentials. So how far along does the user interact with the email before they stop? You know, do you actually let them enter their password, user ID and password, or does it just once they click the link, it's oops, you shouldn't have done this?
Right. So when they do get an email, the one that I show, we'll use the Microsoft one for an example. I think it was a password reset. You know, you do see the email, and if you click on that link, that it will take you to a landing page that looks again like the Microsoft password reset. And if that user decides to actually input their credentials to start kind of the reset process, or you know, to actually go ahead and log in, it will stop them as soon as they go and submit that credential. They will. If they do submit those credentials, Stephen, they will be taken to another landing page that says, you know, this was a phishing simulation, and it would also show them a video on how to avoid phishing scams. But the reports that you will see, you will see every step of the way exactly what the user did. You'll see if they've opened up the email. You'll see if they haven't opened up that email. You'll also see if they've clicked on a link, and you'll also see if they've submitted any credentials when they've clicked on that link on that malicious kind of landing page. And we don't keep the data. So if the user does actually input their credentials, we don't save that information. So we're never going to know what email address and what their password was when they were putting in those credentials.
But then if they attempt to do it, they'll actually be prompted to see a video. That's pretty good. I like
Yes.
that. I like that.
Yes, they will be.
Well, we have to stop them at some point, Steve. You can't just keep down their path, right? You know, you keep letting them go. Now we're going to let them buy stuff on our fake Amazon site to just see how far down they go before they finally quit.
Well, I just, you know, at some point, I've been guilty that I click on something like, wait a minute, or attempted to click on it, and sometimes I may have clicked on it and then realize, oh, that's probably bad. I just didn't know how far along it would let them go. And I think it's great that if they enter credentials, it takes them to a landing page and a video will pop up, you know, and let them know it's immediate feedback to them versus me circling back 2 or 3 days later to say, oops, you failed the test.
Yeah, no, I like that too. I think the part that gets me in the trouble the most is my cell phone, right? Like the fact that I'm on that smaller screen and I'm clicking on things and I'm reading emails. I think for me personally, anyway, I think that's probably my biggest point of vulnerability is that mobile device. And that's the part where I'm always reminding myself, okay, this, you know, really paying attention to that reformatted email is harder to do when the screen is so much smaller and things are getting shrunk anyway, because you're not sure if like, oh, is that icon the right size? Because they'll do their best to make all the icons and logos look very, very convincing. For sure. Okay. Any other questions or things we want to chat about while we've got Samantha on the line here today? No? All right. Well, I truly appreciate everybody taking some time out of your busy schedules to join in this this conversation, and I always appreciate the interaction there. So thank you, Steve, for jumping in. And as always, everybody knows how to get a hold of me, and I'll be glad to connect you up with the folks at ID Agent if we have more questions. And then, of course, if we want to take a deeper dive into looking at something, just get with me as well, and we'll go from there. So any closing thoughts, Samantha, or anything else that you wanted to add?
Not for me, but definitely, take advantage of Floyd's offer. I mean, that's a really great offer for a trial.
Yep, appreciate it. Absolutely. Okay, well, thank you all, and have a great rest of your day. And if I don't talk to you, enjoy the 4th of July.